I know that sounds fundamental and very easy, but we need to be sitting there thinking about where these things are. We can't simply just assume the way it was is the way it always will be. And we're right at that flexion point now over the next 10 years as things start to change. So we all must consider it together, me included. Most people in the book industry are two-dimensional. The world is flat. The way it is the way it always was. And because we've been thinking differently, I've been able to come up with opportunities and be able to get to Booktopia where it is today.
Hi everyone, welcome to this episode of the Make It Happen show. It's time for you to make it happen. Today we're joined by Tony Nash, the founder and CEO of Booktopia, one of the world's largest online retailers of books. So Tony is an absolute favorite here at the Entourage. We've had him at a number of events because he's just got so much knowledge to share. So in this episode, Tony runs through how he went from a $10 a day budget to over $220 million in revenue, which is absolutely phenomenal. He also shares his specific growth strategy to achieve 30% year-on-year growth, which is what Booktopia has been achieving. And he also talks about how marketing and sales needs to always follow the cash. So as always in these episodes, there's lots that you can implement in your business. So have your pen ready to go. Let's get into it.
Welcome to this session. Tony Nash here. I'm the CEO of Booktopia, and I'm excited to be with you today because this is all about sales and marketing, which is my background. I love sales and marketing, especially with entrepreneurs. So before I get into all the nice bits and pieces, I want you to know my background, because I have an elite background that none of you probably have. You see, I got 56% to see. I know, really impressive. I also went to uni. After that, I scraped in where I mastered in Space Invaders and snooker and failed in accounting and economics. So after 6 months, I dropped out and became the mail boy at the NRMA. I've been bankrupt. I also found out that I have ADHD a few years ago, and I have lived with that all my life. I had no idea until my son got diagnosed. So that's my credentials. In the meantime, Booktopia was started, as you've probably heard, on a budget of $10 per day. I started my first company in 1996, so I've actually been running my own businesses for 25 years. It was no light bulb moment. There was not like I saw a gap in the market and I thought, wow, this is it. Here's an opportunity. It was one thing led to another as a side project. So it took 3 days to sell the first book, and by the end of the month, I'd done $2,000 worth. By the fourth month, I was up to $30,000 a month, and by the end of the year, $100,000 a month. So by 2010, we were up to 10 million in revenue, and by 2014, we were up to 40 million in revenue. So quite a lot of rapid growth. From 2016 through to now, we've gone on to about 220 million in revenue as of the last financial year. So for the first almost 16 years of being in business, it was completely self-funded. There was no capital investment until the beginning of last year, where we raised $8 million, and 6 weeks before COVID hit. I can assure you the face of my investor when 6 weeks later, when everything was going into lockdown, was very good. What the hell have I done? But of course, it was one of the best decisions he made. And Booktopia listed at the end of last year on the ASX. So hell of a journey. From all those years, probably around 25 to 30% compound annual growth rate on our revenue. So most of it unfunded. And in terms of from capital, startup capital, we just sold more books, used that money to write more software, hire more people, take more stock, and build the company. Not only that, it was in an industry where people are saying bookshops are dead, the book is finished, Amazon's going to annihilate you. And here we did in Australia, quite a miraculous story. In fact, in 2004, when I started, they said to me, what do you want to start a bookstore for? You know, there's Amazon, there's Borders, there's Dymocks, there's Angus and Robertson. You're too late. Now people say to me, it's lucky you got in early. So the thing about being here today with you, in terms of my background, you can see that I had a very illustrious academic career with probably very little credential to actually be talking here today, but it has nothing to do with I went to Harvard and that I got an MBA or that I did finance at uni or something. It's all about entrepreneurship. It's all about thinking about what's your goal and where you're heading. By all means, do yourself a favor and think seriously about your business, because the beauty for all of us right now, including Booktopia, even though we're listed, even though we have access to capital, it's a time of change. Everything it's kind of like going, okay, let's just dish out all the resources again and let's have another go. It's a huge opportunity. So we all must together think about what the road ahead is and what are the opportunities and how we can literally kind of grab them together. People ask me often, how do you get 35% compound annual growth rate in your revenue? We're the only company ever to make the BRW, it's now the AFR, Fast 100 8 times. So my challenge to you is beat that, because it's not easy to keep going year after year, getting that kind of increased volume. And I remember sitting down with a publisher, Oxford University Press, and I was telling the managing director, who's since retired, and I said to him, look, what I do is I look at what we did last year and I go, what have I got to do to be 30% more this year than I was last year? Now, sometimes it's really freaky because you kind of go, oh my God, that big number, it's like can scare you out. And then you start to ask quality questions, because remember, the quality of your life is determined by the quality of the questions that you ask. So good questions. What questions are you asking? So how can we get there? What could we create that we never had before that could perhaps get there? It starts to get into gear and you start to think of things that you never had realized before, or you're challenging yourself. So I've set my horizon point, and then I start to imagine what I could create to get there. Now, this guy was sitting with me and he goes, I really have got to change my thinking. I said, why? What do you do? He goes, well, we aim for 3% growth and that's a stretch for us. And it was just like, man, well, if you're going to go in that kind of thinking, maybe you get to 5%, because I tell you what, there was no shame in percent growth when you're aiming for 30, quite frankly, even 20%, massive double-digit growth. So it's about setting the horizon point. That is definitely something that I do to help me try and, get cut through.
Hi everyone, I just wanted to jump in here to let you know if you're enjoying this episode, it doesn't need to stop here. We've taken this episode plus all the other episodes and also video footage from the interviews and made it available for free. There's also a bunch of fantastic guides, tools and resources you can use to grow your business. To grab those tools, just go to www.the-entourage.com/podcast. Right, let's get back into the show.
I've had to have much more planning and strategy sometimes as the business has gone on and got bigger and bigger. I can assure you, you can't simply go, troops, let's go to the top of that hill and we'll get there. It needs to have a lot more consideration when the team gets bigger and bigger. One of the most important things to understand, you got to understand where people want to hand over the money. And maybe from what we've been doing before and in the past, it may have changed. So we need to think about, where is the money? Where are people going to hand over the cash? It's super, super important. So that was really monumental when we had we actually had a chat software business. We got out of recruitment and we had built an internet software company in the late 90s, early 2000s, and our business was going to go under because there was a dot-com crash. What happened was I was talking to a web designer about how come Google was getting more and more popular. How do you get to the top of Google? Like, I wanted to know, and he told me what to do. And very quickly we got to the top of Google for chat software. And we very quickly pivoted from being a failing chat software company into a surviving and then thriving internet marketing digital agencies. I know that sounds fundamental and very easy, but we need to be sitting there thinking about where these things are. We can't simply just assume the way it was is the way it always will be. And we're right at that flexion point now over the next 10 years as things start to change. So we all must consider it together, me included. I'm going to share something I've never shared with anyone else before, but it's an interesting insight, I think, just in terms of even of a company of our size. It's something very simple, but it's made a huge impact. So what happened was, one of my team members came to me and they said, it's really, really annoying that the kids' books, when they are adding people to books to the cart, and then they may have added a couple of cheap kids' books, comes to about $12, that they find that postage with Booktopia is $7.95. Now, everyone wants free shipping. I understand that. But last year, Booktopia spent $24 million out of $220 million in revenue, but $24 million with Australia Post. So what happened was they were really frustrated because people are abandoning their carts because it was only like $12 worth of books, and another $8 to do shipping would then mean that it was going to be $20. Okay, fair enough. I took that on board, and then I realized as Booktopia, not only are we a retailer, but we've also got into distribution. So we are now the ANZ distributor for many publishers in Australia and around the world. So that we actually sell to ourselves, we sell to Amazon, Dymix, A&R, or that's us because we bought them in 2015. But all the big shops, we sell to them. And a couple of years ago, we actually got into publishing. And so retailing, distribution, and publishing. And the books that we publish, of course, we're dealing right with the author. So we act at, almost, cost price. We pay the author a royalty and we print them. So what I was able to come up with was this idea of, hey, all the books that we publish, because we get a good margin, why don't we put them into a free shipping promotion? So when you're at the checkout, just add one of these books and you get free shipping. Now, sales for the books that we're publishing are going through the roof, some of them 10 times as much as they were doing before. So I was given a challenge, and there was many facets to that solution that not only serves the author, making our books bestsellers, so publishing, we're really happy. So even here at a mature state where Booktopia is being challenged with things, it's that thinking, it's that three-dimensional thinking. You need to think 3D. You need to be able to look at situations from different angles to work out what the possibilities are. Most people in the book industry are two-dimensional. The world is flat. The way it is the way it always was. And because we've been thinking differently, I've been able to come up with opportunities and be able to get to Booktopia where it is today. Our number 2 competitor, Amazon, of course, does sell books, but it's not a priority for them. They're a tech company, is selling 20 million. So we're on 220 million, and number 2 is on 20 million. I've tried to download as much as I could today. We're coming to the end of our little session here. There is nothing that I know that is really secretive. It's about getting out there and doing it. So please do yourself a favor, invest in yourself. Be it here or even just buying books and reading them, whatever. YouTube videos, doesn't matter. Because when an emergency arises, it needs to be automatic. You cannot rely and go, now what did we hear? What did Jack say? What did he say? I remember he said something really important. Oh, I can't remember it now. It all needs to be internal. Like the stuff that I'm rolling out to now, there's no list here that I'm preparing. It's like, this is just inside. You need to have it automatic. And that's what I hope for you. So thank you for listening. Hopefully I'll see you soon.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of the Make It Happen show. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. And it doesn't need to end there. We've actually gone and grabbed a whole bunch of extra resources for you. Behind the scenes footage, videos from this and all the other episodes, as well as show notes that you can grab for free. Just head along to www.the-entourage.com/podcast and you can grab all those extra resources. Thanks for tuning in, and I cannot wait to introduce you to our next guest on the next episode.